to give you some information a little bit about getting more involved with our foundation. Later this year, as you know, Giving Tuesday comes up every year. It's the day of giving following Consumer Bank holidays, so Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So for 2022, that date will be November 29th this year. Last year, we raised over $20,000 through Giving Tuesday. So this is a big holiday pledge fundraiser for us. We would love to have more people involved. That's what makes this possible, for us to have conferences, for us to have research, and that's a key part of that. So we're calling for all of you to get involved, do individual fundraisers like last year. If you're interested in any type of fundraising but don't know where to start, this is a great way to try. You set a goal, and we'll help support you with any kind of graphics, images, talking points, any other help you need. Many of the families use Facebook. It's really easy. It's like 2 clicks, everything auto-populates. You just put the number that you want, and you can update it. Amanda can make personalized graphics for you if you like. But there's also other options if you're not into Facebook, so just please reach out to us, and we're happy to help. We will have an opportunity in the post-event survey for this meeting to let us know if you're interested. So please, you can reach out to Amanda. All right, great. So just a few housekeeping announcements before we get started. We are live streaming this session for the folks who are not able to physically be here. So just ask for your help in trying to keep the noise in the room to a minimum so we can try to get some good recordings there for the families. Silence your devices. If you have someone who has wiggles or needs to vocalize, please take advantage of the family resource room down the hall. You can also watch the live stream anywhere, ourfoundation.org/conference/livestream. And then now I'm going to turn it over to our panelists. So we have 4 awesome family members here today to talk about their experiences, best practices, things that will help you to tackle those everyday challenges, different tools, etc. So I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves. We have Lauren O'Neill, Michelle Fu, Joanna Bailey, and Caitlin Calder. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm mom of 3, including Eleanor, who has Bohring-Opitz syndrome. She's 18. She was diagnosed through whole genome sequencing at the National Institute of Health in 2012. She started to walk when she was 4 years old, so we've been working on that for many, many years. So I guess I'm going to just go through some of the assistive technology that we use. So that's Eleanor. So over there, back in the room. So what I wanted to talk to you about is some of the devices and apps we use. This right here is where we started with the Big Mac when she was about 9 months old. Actually, we were introduced to this device by a vision specialist, and we started by just using it to actually access like switch devices, so toys that were exciting to her. She would push a button and the toys would activate. Like the beginning of requesting more. I will say that we weren't always well supported by speech pathologists, speech and language pathologists, but there was just always this glimmer of hope that she did understand concepts. I also wanted to talk about the fact that we really had non-linear progress, so we might have been working towards seeing more and all done for years and not see it, but then all of a sudden it appeared out of nowhere. So I would encourage any of you who are trying these things and are struggling just to know that for us, we didn't always see the skill acquisition right away, but eventually it did show up. And I truly believe that Eleanor has comprehension so much greater than her expressive language in the form of AAC now. After we started with the Big Mac when she was like 9 months old, we moved to the 2-message tracker. That's the green and red and yellow, that ours were red and green. We started with more and all done. We moved to yes and no. When we realized that she had more to say, but we couldn't always, raise the question when all done. We had a teacher who was exceptionally skilled with the two-message talker. She could get so much out. We learned a lot from her. We also started with a traditional form of speech therapy when she was an infant and toddler, but we weren't really seeing a lot of progress. Go back to this. On the two-message talker, you can literally record anything you want. You just hold a button and you can make it say whatever you want. At the same time that we introduced the two-message talker, we started using Bohring-Opitz software. It is purchasable, but like we used it through our regional center. It was free. They have a library. We go and use the software and print out little icons. Unfortunately, there's not like a universal icons language, so that everything is a little bit different. But you can kind of search through and pick out which things seem like the most. Some of them seem pretty obscure to me, like the symbols for certain objects. So I would just pick out what seemed the most connected to me, and we would also place. I picked out about 20. We would place them around the house for objects, taking them to surfaces, so that she would get more reinforcement that this symbol meant this item, or this. She happened to really like In-N-Out Burger, so we got the symbol for In-N-Out, and when we would get it, we would touch it, have it near her, and then she would start to see it in other. We quickly found that two-message talker wasn't always available somewhere else, so we downloaded this app, the ASXL app, on our phones. It's free. It's really helpful. We still use it today. Go talk now.
All right, Lauren, I'm going to pause you for just 1 moment. Can we turn off her audio and then we'll get the lights back on? Sorry. I know, those buttons are extremely confusing. Here, Frank, come through this way. We're going to turn it up. Yeah. Okay.
Testing 1, 2.
Much better. Thank you. Is that good?
Yes.
Yeah, much better.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Thank you. Are we good with the lights like this too? It's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Put it on.
We'll just leave them. We're good. All right, thank you. All right. Okay, thank you, Lauren. Sorry.
So, once we learned that we needed to have more language than being able to say 2 things at one time, we moved to the app. On the iPad, I brought it in case you wanted to look at it. Called Go Talk Now, and we started with we went from 2 locations on the two-message talker to 4 locations on Go Talk Now. This one is also just a purchasable app. I mean, some of these things, may be funded by your, insurance or regional centers, but sometimes I found it was just easier to go around that and buy it myself. This one, Pigtello was a great app that allowed us to tell stories for Eleanor, so it would also help engage her with support staff in the classroom, be able to share things about, like, for example, spring break, what we did on spring break. You can include pictures, videos, and she might not be able to hand it to somebody and say, here, look at this, that we would, send her to school, tell her parent, educator, or teacher there's a story on there, and they would all watch it, and it really did allow her to share a little bit more about her life outside of school or other environments. And where we are now, at age, I think we transitioned to the Toby Dynavox around maybe 4 years ago. So that was a big jump, going from 4 locations to then we actually doubled the locations on the Go Talk Now. So this is a big jump to 24 locations. It's a lot of language. We don't use all of this at one time. You can block, certain things out so that when you're training the device for the child, you can limit their opportunity to make errors. So that's where we're at right now. And like I said, I just wanted to reiterate that it has been really non-linear progress for us. Certainly I heard this morning in a discussion about tests, these kind of developmental tests, and how, you know, our kids often don't score well on them because, you know, they're not able to communicate. But I can tell you for sure that my daughter has a lot of ideas and thoughts in her head that she can't communicate without the help of assistive technology. And if I only listened to the people that told me that she was like at a certain developmental level, I wouldn't believe that she could communicate these things. I'm happy to answer any questions about what we use for you to share her devices with you.
I'm Joanna Bailey. I live in Michigan with my husband Jacob, and Juniper is back there. I have 3 children. My oldest 2 are neurotypical. Juniper was diagnosed with Bainbridge-Ropers Syndrome when she was 20 months. In 2020, she's now 3.5 years old, and she does walk and she communicates through sign language. I'm an educational sign language interpreter, so sign language came naturally to me. I work primarily with elementary age students, and in my work I've seen how vital it is for deaf children to be exposed to a language that is accessible to them. And although Juniper is not deaf, my work has greatly influenced how we work with Juniper at home. You know, since birth, before we knew about that she had VRS, we signed with her. She was probably about 13 months old when she first signed. More was her first sign. She did it independently. She probably now has in her vocabulary maybe 40 to 50 signs. 20, I'd say, are her core signs that she uses on a regular basis, that when she wants something, she knows exactly the sign that she needs to get it. We just recently mastered Mom and Dad, so that was really exciting for my husband and I. She independently will request me, which is a mom, is, you know, everything. We are now moving on to what we're currently working on is Grandma and Grandpa, and I did make, as just a visual aid too, we try and use a lot of pictures. These are actually her grandparents signing the sign for Grandma and Grandpa, and my goal is to expose her to these when we're going over to their house, model the sign for her, hand over hand the sign, and then with the goal eventually that she will do it independently. She still does require quite a bit of prompts, whether that's a verbal prompt to produce the sign, sometimes a touch on the elbow too, is what she needs. I had a handout of ASL resources. I know we have people from all over the world. As many of you may know, sign languages are unique to the country where you're from. So although it might not be totally applicable, the ASL resources hopefully will be somewhere to go from to have more resources to learn sign language. Another book that I recently started using is this, which kind of incorporates text and sign language. It has a picture of a child doing the sign, what the sign represents, and then the soundboard right there. Juniper loves soundboards right now, so she's loving it, and that was included on the resource list too, where you can get that. And in my experience with working with deaf children and being involved in the deaf community, it's so hard for a deaf child to progress in sign language unless they see it being modeled, and that really resonated with me personally, because again, Juniper isn't deaf, but at least currently speech is inaccessible for her. I speak to her, she doesn't speak to me back. So I wanted to, as much as I could, model for her a language that was accessible to her. So we try, we're not, obviously we speak to her a lot too, but we try and sign, try and model label and sign language, and so does my husband and our other 2 children, just so that she can see a language that is accessible to her being modeled regularly. And I have a video, to show. This actually we made for to show friends and family how Juniper communicates, how she very subtly communicates, how she non-verbally communicates, but it turned out really to be much more of a reminder to me that what communication is, and that ultimately it's that connection, that it transcends words, transcends signs, it's that inexplicable link that you have with another person, and that bonds people, and I believe that Juniper has that. I believe that she gives that. I believe all our children do that. So this is what that video is about. Just to add to that, when the initial brief of learning Juniper's diagnosis wore off, I felt like I had this fire that I was going to change the world. She was going to be fluent in ASL. I was going to do everything her speech therapist told me. And I had all these goals, and ultimately she wasn't reaching them. And it was exhausting for me, it was exhausting for her, and I guess it taught me a lesson about communication that I'm still learning, is to find that balance between giving her every possible way to reach her communication potential, but at the same time validating her that if she never learns another sign, another word, she's enough, and also validating me that I don't have to be her therapist, she has enough therapists, and I'm her mom.
I can help you, Michelle.
Hi, my name is Michelle Koo. I live in Southern California. My son is 7 years old. His name is Kiali. Kiali was diagnosed in 2017, February 2017 in Ohio. They did the genetic testing and they found Bainbridge-Ropers Syndrome, but honestly, we always knew this would be a long path. We started services like at 2 months. Like we've been in therapy since 2 months old, and a lot of his first years were dealing with GI pain and lots of hospitalization. So I think the first 3 years we weren't really able to concentrate on communication because we were overwhelmed with the medical issues. So at 3 years old, we were able to get speech services, and that started off with the communication button. They tried sign, but sign didn't really do very much for him because he was having so much trouble using his hands. He wasn't able to do more or all done. He couldn't coordinate that. So it would frustrate him more than anything. And so I looked into text communication, and that really started off very well for him. Where did I find the video?
What do you need, Michelle?
The videos? Okay. I'm sorry, I have videos for you guys to see. We got to phase 3 in text communication, and we were able to tell his favorite activities, when he wanted to stop doing those activities, thank you, more, stop. But we noticed once he started walking and became mobile, he was no longer interested in text. It wasn't fast enough. So we went to, we started trying to get into, I'm so sorry, I'm so nervous.
Can you tell us what PEX is? I'm not sure what you're referring to.
It's like a picture communication system.
Picture exchange communication system, that's what it is.
System.
So it's actual physical pictures?
And it'll be on a Velcro, and they'll take from the page and then give it to you and request for what they want. We've noticed throughout the years that Calder needs multiple different forms of language. So it's not just going to be on a communication system or picture exchange or signs. It's going to be with a communication device, picture exchange, leading you to what he wants, body language, depending on the day and if he is overwhelmed with things. We really have to pay attention to what he needs on that day.
I'm taking water with me because my mouth is stressed. I'm kind of loud. I'm a speech therapist, and my coworkers make fun of me because they always know which room I'm in because I'm legitimately that loud. So you guys can hear me, right? Yes. Okay. Like I said, my name is Calder. My daughter is Della. We were diagnosed in 2012 when she was 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 5 years old. I have to count on my fingers. Sorry. We moved to Houston because we were told that we were here in Orange County, and our doctor said if we were ever going to find a genetic cause, because by that time we had kind of ruled out anything else, they said Texas Children's Hospital might have an answer for you when she's a young adult. We thought, okay, a housing crisis, not so much the weather, but and that's exactly what happened. And she wasn't a young adult, she was 5. So the technology grows exponentially, and it's not this it'll happen in 5 years. It's just as fast as the technology can keep up. So we got our diagnosis at Baylor Texas Children's Hospital. And they said, it took 6 months to get our results back. She was she was in a pilot program for whole exome sequencing. And they called us up 6 months later and said, we found something, please come in. So we did, and they were like, oh my gosh, we found it. It's the ASXL3 gene, and we have no idea what it does. Do you want to be in our research study? Because the guy who found it is right outside the door, and he'd love to talk to you. Yeah. So we just happened to walk into this guy's office. It was Matthew Bainbridge, who is, went on to have that named after him. He's published. He put it open source, so any researcher, it's not behind any paywall, and researchers all have access to it, because the more we can do that together, the faster we can get people information and researchers what they need. So he's kind of rare in that way, so I really appreciate that. Shout out to Matthew Bainbridge. Like I said, I'm a speech language pathologist. I work with adults right now who have a traumatic brain injury, a stroke, brain tumor, it's a lot of neurological stuff. And it's great. I wanted to work with kids, but it's just too close to me right now. It's getting better, but I take it, you can't help but see yourself in people. And I happen to be very tender-hearted. So I feel very responsible to my patients and because I've been there. I went back to school when I was 30. I dropped out of junior college when I was 18 and never went back, but I went back to school when I was 30 because this is what I knew I wanted to do. I got my master's degree and in AAC, any kind of alternative communication, children, adults, whatever. And I felt like there wasn't enough to help SLPs support families like mine. There just is not. Also, we're expected as SLPs to know a lot of things: swallowing disorders, language, motor speech, cognition, social pragmatics, AAC, and it's a lot. So don't blame your SLP too much, unless they're really bad, and then get a new one. But I'm interested in research, and my focus is us as caregivers. We're the ones implementing it. We're the ones who, the speech therapist for an hour once or twice a week, oh, great, then they leave. I'm with that person, my child, the rest of that time. I didn't have any tools on how to implement it. I didn't know, I felt like I was doing it wrong because she was zero interested in it. When
we first got our first device, she was 2.5, and the iPad had just come out. Our family was very generous and helped us buy one. And I thought, okay, she's gonna type in like, thanks mom for taking care of my every need and always putting yourself last. I was like, this is gonna be so great. This was my result. So she immediately smashed an $8,000 machine that it had taken months to acquire. It got fixed, but for the sake of transparency, I know I already talked to some people about this, but it was really hard. Now that I've admitted it more times, it's easier, but I totally lied to her SLP about using it. I straight-faced lied to her because I was shamed, I was embarrassed, I didn't know how to implement it, I thought I was doing it wrong, I thought I wasn't smart enough, and so I just lied and said we used it. I'm sure she knew. I'm 100% sure she knew. But I was like, okay, but there's a counter in it. So I would strap it in the front seat as we were driving to therapy and just push buttons all over to be like, oh, look, she used it. And yes, I'm not proud of that fact, but I didn't know how to do it. And I am more interested now in speech therapy focusing on helping caregivers implement it, how to put in your own buttons, when to use it, and how much SLPs need to expect from us. Adjusting their understanding and their expectations of us is really important because they don't understand that I've also got 5 other therapists telling me how important this is to do every day or else, or the window's gonna close, and this stress will break you. It broke me. I broke. And I understand where they're coming from. They should think theirs is the most important. That's how you know they're passionate about it, and I appreciate that. But I needed help on implementation, and that is coming from the parents. It's not coming from, the speech therapist. So some of the things, I'll go back, okay. So my big thing is teaching clinicians, and I'm interested in research on how to support caregivers more in implementing this. So some of the things I tell them, stop putting so much pressure on us because we're about to snap. At any moment, I might be in Target and I burst into tears. Nothing like crying with a stranger in Target, and it's like because it's all the time. That burden never leaves me. Even when I'm not thinking about it, even when I'm at work, that stress is on my shoulders 24/7, okay? So stop trying to tell me that I need to carry this, 10-pound thing around, everywhere we go all day, because I'm not gonna do it, and I'm tired, and I forgot, and I didn't charge it. So her device stayed on the shelf, collecting dust. I felt like every day it was staring at me, judging me, like, you're the worst mom. You're not even using this. Look at all the dust on it. Your SLP thinks you're the worst. You are the worst. And that's how, it was very difficult. And it affected the way I felt about myself. I feel like I was letting my child down. There's so much emotional components of this, and that's what I really want speech therapists to understand, is this is what my life is like. I wish they could come over. I wish they could see what I'm doing every day. So another thing I want to teach clinicians is setting realistic goals for families. Not just carry it around for 24 hours a day. Research is encouraging families 5 minutes a day, 3 minutes a day, because guess what? You're going to get 20 to 35 minutes a week. That's a heck of a lot more than 0. Then you use it at the same time every day, encouraging people. You might not even get 5 minutes. That's okay. Just trying to give us reachable goals. I can do 5 minutes maybe 4 times a week, maybe 5, because I can't do it all. And that's but it's showing that it is making a difference. It is helping that child or that adult to get that information on how to use this. My daughter used to go to speech therapy, and she would disappear into a room that had no mirrors and no cameras, so I don't know what the heck was going on. I know I said this already to some of you, but they'd come out and be like, oh my gosh, she said glitter. And I'm like, what am I going to do with that? I don't give glitter to my neurotypical son. Like, why would I give that to her? What is that going to do for me? So keeping goals very functional. What means the most to this family? What are they struggling with right now that communication might help alleviate? So making sure it's practical, it's relevant to us, setting reachable goals, and then learning about modeling. I didn't go to speech therapy. I didn't see it. I didn't know what was happening in that room. Clearly it was magic because it wasn't happening in my house. So we need to teach families how to use it in a very simple way. Because now I'm programming, it looks like stinking DOS, all of these things that you have to connect, and it was awful. I don't have time for that. If I don't have time for 5 minutes on certain days, I can't program this. So we know what's important to our child. So if you can give us the tools, that way your whole hour with the speech therapist isn't spent programming it. So we're looking for a faster, easier, accessible way for people to do this. It's also cost prohibitive to some of us, a lot of us. So making sure SLPs know how to get the equipment a child needs and how to implement that. And then my last thing that I want parents to know is you're a parent first. You're not a therapist. I have to hire a speech therapist for my own child. One, because she doesn't really give a crap about what I say to her most of the time, but also that emotional attachment is very blinding to me. I cannot treat my own child, even though I might be the most qualified. I think we're all the most qualified to be our child's therapist. But you have to take that hat off sometimes. So we are parents first, clinicians, therapists later. So I really want to enforce that. You're not going to do everything that everyone says to do, and that's okay. Your child's whole entire life doesn't hinge on that because it felt like I did. I did this. She's never going to A, B, C, or D because I didn't do this today. It's exhausting, especially with the medical needs in there. It's like impossible. So parenting comes first, connecting with our children, because we know what they might mean even though they're nonverbal, and then we'll work on the extras later. But taking that pressure off yourself and forgiving yourself, which is much easier said than done. They say, oh, what would you tell your best friend about this? And you think, oh, A, B, C, and D. We definitely don't tell ourselves that. So trying to look at it, separate yourself a little bit, and because the weight will crush you. And you for me, I had to go through the fire to figure it out because it was crushing me and everything in my life. So yeah, that's why AAC is important to me, and my goal is to teach clinicians and hopefully give you guys some ways that you can understand, how to talk to your SLP about it. And then I said modeling, but what I mean is when we're giving our children speech, verbalized speech, but we're asking them to answer in a way that is completely foreign. And I didn't know that till I went to school. So answering verbally is fine, but also replying with a button. Oh, we're communicating this way. This is an output, whether it's sign, whether it's PECS, whether it's the machine. That's the first thing I wish I had known, because I didn't know that, and so I didn't understand it, and I did some really stupid things. Okay, my son a few years ago found out how much some of these things were costing, and he decided to, bless his heart, he didn't know he was like looking at an elephant, but he could only see the tail. He's like, oh, this is gonna be so great. And programming language, putting a picture to something like, I guess angry is not one, but some of these things don't have, like a question mark means nothing to my child. But if we can teach them enough, they'll hopefully start to get this non-related symbol. But he decided to make his own app, make it free, it's open source. He has all the programming language, all of the guts of this free speech app available to all programmers across the world. He's also making it free for every parent. It works on every device, a phone, iPhone, Google, a desktop computer, whatever, and it's free. What you can do is you can bookmark the free speech site. It's a website, it's not an app. You don't need to go to the app store or anything. And then you can lock that link on your phone and access it whenever you want. Trying yes and no. Heck, just even trying no. My kid says no way more than she says yes. I'll be honest with you. Like, she could be peeing her pants and I'm like, do you need to go to the bathroom? No. So it's just a way to start. And it gives it access to all families across the world, regardless of what benefits you have. This is his very basic one, but he's in the process of working with some healthcare companies to make it a little more interactive, such as like with ProLoco to Go and things like that. But until you get to that point, this might be the only way that families have to start this process. So I was gonna let him just speak for 3 or 4 minutes, if that's okay, about this application, and then I just want you guys to know that we'll be available, I'll be available after to get started on it, or at least show you it, and you can hopefully get started on implementing this. So, yeah. I told you I was loud. I'm so loud. This is my son Archer. Just graduated high school, about to go to UT Dallas. Very exciting, so.
All right, okay. Well, hello everyone. Thank you guys for being here. Yeah, so Free Speech is a free and open source AAC application I made. I made it, for my sister first, but it picked up a lot of attention across social media and from, like traditional media as well. And so we actually have a lot of end users now, a few thousand active users on this website. If you're interested, it's freespeechaac.com, or you can go to app.freespeechaac.com. That's all one word, and it should give you enough information on there to start using it. And just last thing about using it, I just want to mention that all the changes you make are actually stored in your browser session, so you don't have to worry about your changes being lost. But yeah, I just made Free Speech as kind of a free alternative and to AAC applications, and I also made it open source because I wanted to introduce the world of AAC to the world of open source development. And so since its inception, we've actually garnered a lot of developers who want to help work on this. And so if you use it now, it's pretty limited in features. You can make buttons, you can add pictures and stuff like that to your buttons. You can also make navigation folders really easily. Really, honestly, the goal of this app is to make it easy and simple for parents and paras and teachers who don't want to spend a lot of time on a learning curve on AAC apps, because I remember many times when my mom was hunched over the Dynavox owner's manual, way back in 2011, 2012, whenever we were working with that. And so I just wanted to make something that feels like an application that we all use on our smartphones, and that works for kids and also people too, because I wanted to make it both very usable for parents, teachers, and parents who might not have the time to get over a learning curve, but also I wanted to make it powerful enough so that people who did want to spend some time in the application learning its features could be able to actually do a lot more extensible features. So if you keep up with the application, just freespeechaac.com. I'll be posting updates on there hopefully, and hopefully we'll be rolling out a beta program soon if you guys are interested in that. So. But yeah, if you want to email me about that, if you want to email me about that beta program, it's archer@freespeechaac.com. That's my email. I don't have a beta program sign up on the website currently, but if you are interested in testing that, we do need testers. We need people who are suggesting features, and we're not looking for features that necessarily that other AAC apps have. I do want to implement all the other features that other apps like Proloquo have, but also, this is a time when we want to, I personally want to innovate and possibly experiment with some more experimental features. I don't really have the time to talk about that now, but please, any suggestions, anything, just feel free to email me, archer@freespeechaac.com. And if you also want to contribute or something like that, yeah, just shoot me an email. I read my emails, I'll check my inbox, and I'll get back to you. Thank you, Mom, for giving me the time to speak on my
I know this is
application.
unexpected, so thank you for letting me.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm really passionate about this, guys. I'm really passionate about not only open source software, but about AAC and about making AAC accessible to everyone, regardless of some sort of paywall. So yeah, thank you for giving me time.
So we have the videos that Michelle submitted. I'm sorry about that, Michelle. It is a good opportunity to give a shout out to someone who you can't see, who is working behind the scenes all the way from Luxembourg in Europe, and that is Sanker Manavan, who is a BRS parent who has helped coordinate all of our family speakers, collecting slides. We all did pre-calls to get ready for this. So he was able to find what we needed and put it into the cloud really fast. So we appreciate that, that he's working all the way from over there. So give me just 1 minute to pull that up here. Why don't you take a couple questions while I pull that up?
Raise your hand.
Hello? Okay, question?
My question is, when you're trialing different methods for communication, how long do you wait? So I have some therapists that, once or twice, and oh, that's not working, text, she's not getting it, she can't see the discrimination piece. And sometimes I feel like we rush through things that could have potential. And then there's other times where I feel like it's been months and months and months, and I'm doing it every single day, and there's nothing. There's no response. There's no internalization of any of the types of communication that we're working on. So what, in your opinion or in your experience, when do you stop something and try something else?
I guess I'll speak from my own experience that I don't know that was always really something I knew inside, like when to stop. I will say that, we had, all of us, we have medically complex children, and sometimes our medical needs take over and not, doing actual therapies. And honestly, those were the times when we finally got back to, recover from whatever medical incident we were dealing with. Months later, got back to it, and it was like, all of a sudden something looked familiar to her. Sometimes it was just taking a break for us. But I don't know that I have an exact answer. It just seemed like really slow progress. We certainly started out with that, single button, and spent, a couple of years there. So that's just it.
I would also say go with your gut. You know your child really, really well. And if it's too fast, if that's your feeling, go with that, because you're probably right. And then other things, to give it a chance, sometimes I think, if my daughter needs to see it 1,000 times, I'm not gonna stop at 800, right? But you also know when you've given it enough time and it's not working, so go do something else. However, keep them in your back pocket, because she has changed modalities of how she's gonna communicate many times as she develops and grows. Her mood, we're going through puberty, so pretty much it's a terrible mood all the time, but deep down, I know you're not an SLP, none of us, well, I am now, but I'm just saying, your child, and I wish I had gone with my gut more often, because I was right. And I doubted myself because I'm like, oh, these people went to school, whatever. Go with your gut. If it's going too fast, I would guess that it's going too fast. Just trust your instincts on that.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Hi, Caitlin. So, since you went to school and all, I wanted to ask, when you guys learn about, speech therapy, if there's any correlation like that you learn together, the behavior and speech, because we are going through this crazy behavior right now, and sometimes, I think that the behavior is coming from speech, like he wants a popsicle all the time, and I say, no popsicle, I'm sorry, you can't have 10 popsicles a day. So then he just throws and breaks things, and to me that's a way of saying I can't, if he was a little child, he'd be like, I want more popsicles. Yeah. He can't do that, so he's telling me in a different way. Is there any areas of speech therapists that can really work behavior and speech together? I haven't heard of anything like that, so.
Do I need the microphone? You guys hear me?
Yes.
We're recording, so yes.
Okay, oh yes, okay, sorry. Okay, so I'm on a Facebook group for ABA therapists who are also SLPs. So I guess they're SLPs who then go back and get an ABA, I think it's a certification. I think you have to graduate in it. And so they have both pieces, and that's a very awesome thing. It's rare. So the other thing I suggest is people are having a hard time finding a speech therapist. We were kind of forced into telehealth with COVID, and there are speech therapists who now spend more time coaching families through something, like, that was great. However, let's try this. That was awesome. Keep doing that. And then helping you kind of shape where you need the skills that you need. Now, sometimes it's gonna work and sometimes it won't. She knocked the wind out of me this morning, like pretty bad. So you're right, there is a component of frustration. And even with AAC, it's limited real estate, right? Like, if I had to write down 15 words and I'd use only those all day, I would be freaking out. I would be beside myself. And the worst part is maybe these kids don't even have 15. You know, they are not capable of more than that. So definitely being able to validate their feelings, like, I can see you're really angry. Help them put the words to it and help them just acknowledge, hey, I understand. You're really, really angry and upset. You still can't have any popsicles. And so that's why I'm saying I don't get to say yes to my child very often. I wish I could. And when I'm a grandparent, I'm going to say yes all the time to all my grandkids every day. So it can help curb some of those things, but also they're going to still do it. But there's an ABA SLP Facebook page, and I can ask how parents can find these people if you would like.
Awesome, thank you.
Could you ask also for coach read? Do you have ABA?
We have ABA.
So could you ask to do coach reading, like where ABA and speech are at the same time once, or a few times?
Yeah, I could definitely talk to my ABA therapist. Yeah, we work a lot on behavior, stuff, but we haven't really worked on both of them together,
Yeah, we've had a couple of really successful. We've had a couple of really successful coach read sessions with like PT and OT together. So brainstorming.
Yeah.
I was gonna add one more thing. We also do speech and music together, which is also really valuable for Juniper, as a coach read.
I'm gonna turn it back to Michelle.
Okay, I apologize, I didn't have these up earlier. I'm gonna show our first experience with the toys, the adaptive toys. And I just kind of gave him the cause and effect and him being able to have control of what he wanted. So that kind of gave him an idea on that.
Well, what did that do? Was it like a picture that moved?
It vibrated.
It vibrated? Okay.
So Kelly likes a lot of proprioception. It helps him regulate a lot, and he's very much a sensory seeker.
Yeah.
So that really motivated him he had a hard time with his dexterity.
Yeah.
And that just gave him the freedom to control it. And so our next success was with text communication. And food is a big motivator for Kelly. Sorry. So food is a big motivator for Kelly.
I think so. Sorry, Michelle.
And so in phase 2, they start learning how to differentiate what they want and what they don't want. And then you go on to completing sentences. And we couldn't quite get to that, but what text did do for us is give us a greater understanding of what he does comprehend. We know now that he knows his shapes, his colors, his letters, people that are closest to him, mom, dad, grandpa, his therapist, and that is because of PECS. Once he started walking, can you guys hear that?
Sometimes you gotta put the microphone near the phone. You just have to go without audio, sorry about that.
I'm so sorry, you guys.
The microphone, if you put the microphone near the computer. No, put that microphone near the computer. There's no audio coming out of the computer. Oh.
Yeah. So Kelly started walking at 5 years old, and once he started walking, these are his first steps. Once he started walking, his communication needs changed greatly. it wasn't fast enough. PEX wasn't doing the trick. He's able to get to what he wanted and what he needed. So instead of using the PEX communication, he's like, oh no, Mom, I'm gonna grab you and take you to what I need. This is more efficient for me. Sorry, I'll put So for Callie, I think for him, I'm gonna work smarter, not harder. I'm gonna throw away this text communication and grab Mom, or just grab what I want. So once we started walking, that's when we saw the difference in his communication needs. So now we're using a mixture of signing, icons, so like picture icons, and the communication device. With the communication device, my challenge right now is figuring out what size should the grid be. So is he able to tap on this efficiently enough? And half the time he will get to around what he wants, but not exactly to the thing that he wants to communicate.
Is that because of motor planning?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's a ton of adjustments we can make.
Right,
for that.
and so that's what we're figuring out. That's what I want the parents to know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of adjustments to this AAC devices. You can even change the color of the screen so it's more visually pleasing to them. They can see it easier. A stylus, is it at the right level for him to grab to? You know, the motor function stuff is so important, and I think it's so frustrating to him that he can't say it fast enough. And so half the time, I know what he's talking about, and I'll model, okay, we want more. I know what you're saying, you want more and not this, and I'll communicate that to him, and it gives him a feeling of more success. But you really have to be patient and understand that it's gonna take time for them, and listen to what their needs are. And the other reason to have different forms of communication for Callie, I think, is that this could be overstimulating. On Monday, he might not even want to look at that. So let's give him an icon or sign, or you know what, maybe you're just going to take me to what you want. But respecting his body and his choice to not communicate that way is so important, because if you keep throwing that in his face and he doesn't want it, he's going to throw it out. So I think listening to body autonomy is very important for our kids. And I'm trying very hard not to be an ableist to what my son needs. So that is my philosophy, and I think that's what I'm getting the most success with, Callie. Thank you.
We have time for one more question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I already asked what, so you can go ahead.
Mine's a good question. So Eva gets speech therapy through school, but it's group setting, and I think they just put her on Go Talk Now, but they haven't sent anything home with me. So I think it's kind of like the similar story, and you know, I guess what I need to do at our next IEP is just say, send the application home and get parent training. I don't know. I think mine was just a comment, really.
No, the thing with AAC devices, I think it's something new. It's been around, but I think it's getting better and it's newer, and the people at schools are not trained at it. It's hard to find. I live in a place where there's none of the therapists are trained on it. And I fought with my school. I said I wanted someone that is trained with AAC device to work with Leo. And no one was trained. They couldn't find someone. I was like, I am willing to pay for someone to come to the school and train the teachers. And then the teachers are like, I don't want it, because it's not their job. They're busy. I don't know. I'm not gonna blame them. But it has been somewhat difficult to find AAC people that are trained, that knows what they're doing, that can actually work with the parents.
Caitlin, I have one last question for you. Thank you so much.
Also, it's written in ADA that they have to provide it's written in the ADA, like Special Education Act, that they need to provide a way for all children to communicate, and that they have to help the parents.
Okay.
So I'll send you that
Okay.
little article. And,
I'll pass it along.
okay, let's do it.
I wanted to make a comment about this. It is in Keale's IEP that everybody working with him, speech, PT, OT, the one-on-one aide and the teacher all need to be trained in his communication. But I am not being trained on how to adjust the tank system. There are things that I need to do on this device to make it more appropriate for him. Like, I don't know, can I get a Starbucks Frappuccino? Because that's all I want to eat all day. I don't know how to do that. It's so frustrating.
So my question for you is, if you're like, so we have instances when, your child is in pain or they have to go to the bathroom and, you're not in a situation where you're going to put a screen in front of them and say, oh, like, what's her, like, it's just a lot more complicated, or if you're in the hospital or you're in public where it's harder to bring these devices. Like, do you have suggestions of other modalities that you've tried? Like, we've tried a doll and different body parts, or like heating cooling pads in different areas, like any other suggestions about how to help them express their needs when they're struggling?
And I think those needs are also very abstract.
Right.
It's hard for my child to understand. Very rarely does she pick a point on her body. Sometimes she'll point to her mouth, but then we take her to the dentist and they're like, yeah, it looks good. So I have no idea. She also pinches her throat and I'm not sure why. So we went for this and we ended up getting gabapentin, which is for nerve pain, because since it wasn't localized, we were thinking her nerves were firing, and maybe it's, I actually see this a lot with spinal cord injuries. Their nerves are firing even though nothing's going on, and to help curb that nerve pain specifically, we did that. That seemed to help, but also just, we try to reinforce very easy signs. P is like the last frontier, you guys. She does it for spite. Like, I'll set her on the potty for 10 minutes and then she'll stand up and look me in the eye and then pee on the floor. So it's like, it's very difficult, but using those signs, helping her hand over hand and telling her myself, like, you pat your hip for diaper or pee. She used to like grab other parts of her body and that was not socially appropriate. But those are some of the modalities that I used. Also, simple yes/no questions. That's the first thing I start with patients coming out of a coma, patients who, are just coming around, is that they can answer a simple yes or no question. So asking, something in their language. And, but pain is such an abstract idea that I don't know her capacity to say that. But then making sure if they are in the hospital, helping people to know, having a little sign, hey, these are what my signs mean, so that they can communicate. If you're not there 24/7, I mean, sometimes we gotta take a bathroom break or shower, right? So, yeah, just building as many things as you can to make it as accessible as you can.
Thank you so much. We have a round of applause for our panelists.